2, 1, and action.
Live?
Mm-hmm.
Hello and welcome to A Gypsy Kiss, the vlog, now live. I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Eunice. Stick with us a couple of seconds and we'll tell you a little bit about what we think when it comes to Fens Special Place. Live.
So we're back. Fens Special Place. Tell us, is this Fens Special Place?
Actually, no, that's that's really good. So that's an image from my special place. It's on the Rio Grande, and I go back there to photograph it often just because it's so serene and so quiet and meets all the criteria of a special place.
You should sell that to the people who make puzzles. 'Cause they love
It's a good.
this
It
stuff.
would be a good puzzle. And you've seen the full-sized one, the 16:9 version
Yeah.
of it. So yeah. So before we get started, I've got a couple of announcements. Number one, I wanted to congratulate Cindy Guess and her sister Tammy Matz for breaking the code of treasure number 284, as well as Alan Pop, who also cracked the code. Unfortunately, they live in locations that prevents them from making the trip. So, although people have cracked the code, making it eminently crackable, they haven't actually retrieved the treasure because they just live too far away. So, congratulations, Tammy and Cindy and Alan. Thanks for watching our show.
And my husband figured it out too.
Oh, he did? I didn't even know he was trying. That's good. I
He
like
wanted
that.
he wanted to learn. He watched the video on
Yeah.
how to do that, so
Yeah.
he thought he'd check it out.
So I've made plans for the next one, and we're gonna make that we're gonna make the cipher just a little bit tougher.
Yeah,
So
and I think probably not tell everybody where it's at.
I didn't tell anybody where it's at.
Would you call it?
Did I tell somebody where it was at?
You called it by its name.
Okay, all
That's
right.
where it was located.
You know what? And Clayton mentioned that to me after I gave it the name because he didn't in our conversations. He never actually mentioned that. He
Oh.
never mentioned that it was I should have I should be smart enough to realize that's why he was calling it that. So and then after I put it all up, it was like.
We also want to say thank you to our subscribers because we made it up over 1,000. Yay!
So thanks very much for that. Thanks for entrusting us with your subscription. We promise to do as much as we can to make it useful for you, and we'll continue to try to be informative about things.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then the last thing I want to mention is although we welcome you guys chatting away in the super chat while we're talking.
Live chat.
Live chat.
We didn't enable super chat.
Oh, we didn't?
No.
Is that the one that pops out? What is super chat?
People have to pay to talk.
Oh, let's do that next time. People have to pay to talk. So although we've enabled live chat and you're welcome to have the conversation amongst yourselves, we're going to ignore you until the end of the presentation, and then we're going to open it up to live Q&A, and we'll answer the questions related to this topic so that we can stay on track with it and get as much information together as we can.
So
Okay?
it's like seeing us live, That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, if you have an arena that you would like us to be there and you'd fill it with people, it'd be just like this.
I think it's pretty neat.
Okay.
So I hope the image is good. I hope the sound is good.
Yeah.
So let's go on to talk about Fen's Special Place. So this all comes about from an early interview that he did with Cafe Radio in Santa Fe. And he said, I've taken this treasure chest to a very secret and a very special place, and I've hidden it there. And this is where I'm going to use the word myth, but I don't mean it in a negative way. The myth of the hidden treasure in the special place began. Since then, he's referred to it more than once. In a response to a question at Mysterious Writings, he said, I will give you a clue to a special place in the forest north of Santa Fe. And this was back when he was still talking about this was an early one where he was still talking about the treasure being north of Santa Fe and not necessarily after 2013 where he started talking about the Rocky Mountains. at the Moby Dickens interview, he says, the thrill of the chase. I keep going back to the thrill of the chase. And you know, the Moby Dickens interview is on our channel. You're welcome to watch it at any time you want. And you can think I'm crazy if you want to. And a lot of people have said that, meaning they've said that I'm crazy. But it's something I believe in. And that's the treasure chest. I have said is in and that the treasure chest, I have said, is in a very special place to me. So again, he refers to this special place in the context of the treasure chest. And then the final one was this was in the Everything is Stories radio or podcast interview. My goal was to take the treasure chest out in a very special place and put it there. So he has consistently referred to the place where he put the treasure as, quote, a very special place, unquote. Now, interestingly, there have been other quotes that have come from Fenn where he refers to a special place, and he's not referring to the place that he hid the treasure. In this interview with Richard Eads in Santa Fe, they're talking about Fenn's home on Old Santa Fe Trail, and Fenn says, but it's a special place. And when I used to go out and plant flowers in my garden, I was always digging up pottery and that sort of thing. It's a historic place. So interestingly enough, Fenn has already helped us to define what makes a place special, not only for him, but for everyone. And then at Moby Dickens, he was talking about this email exchange that he had with Dale Neitzel, his good friend. And he said, so I sent Dale Neitzel an email, and I said, go to the Madison River in Yellowstone Park. There's a very special place that I'm going to tell you about and take a photograph of the water. And that's the photograph that eventually Fenn's artist added Fenn's shadow to and put on the dust jacket of Too Far to Walk. But he referred to it as a special place. Now, I want to be clear, I don't think either of those locations, Fenn's home or that location on the Madison River inside Yellowstone Park, are either of Fenn's special places. I don't believe that Fenn's special place is in Yellowstone Park.
I think it's more of like saying, well, in this case of Yellowstone Park, I think it's a specific, he meant specific when he said special.
Yeah.
You know, that's the connotation. But it's a special place at his home. Well, I've been there. It is pretty special. I mean, if you're in Santa Fe and, you know, it's all the old homes and businesses and everything else, it sort of seems like when you get to his place and you go through the gate, it's like being out in the forest again. So it is a special place, I think, for that reason.
I think he uses special place on occasion in the same way that he uses the word, is it little? The little Paposia River, etc., where he wants to indicate that it is something special to him. And I've always, whenever he uses little as an adjective to describe some place that's special to him, I've always perceived the little to mean precious, you know, lovable or whatever, because that's the way he uses it, you know, in his conversation.
So now we're getting into the NLP stuff we talked about, the neuro-linguistic programming. So that
I thought it was nonlinear programming,
he was
but you're right.
Raised in a certain way, and they spoke this language. They used the word special, the word little. This is how they use that in his home and in his context.
Yeah,
that's what it means to him.
And I think that's very important, because all this has to be done, and the conversation we're about to have is in the context of Fenn. Yes. And what we know about him. So let's go back and talk about what makes a place special. And I'm going to give you some examples. And the reason I picked these examples is because they're very much like the places I think of as special. What makes a place special is that, and I heard this described this way, these aren't energy vortexes, not my phrase, but it's a very metaphysical description. They are the places that we are drawn to. There's a place on the Rio Grande River where if I'm passing above Pilar, that if I'm passing it and I have a fishing rod in my car, I can't help but stop, go to that place, and start throwing wet flies and nymphs at the Rio Grande, at that location. I can't pass it. It's got a quiet little campground. It's very serene. It is in not quite the gorge, the Rio Grande Gorge, but it is in a deep valley surrounded by history. There's you find petroglyphs almost everywhere you go in that area. So there's a lot of that in there, and I am drawn to it. So I call it one of my energy vortices. Other places are Sedona, Arizona is perceived as an energy vortex. Stonehenge is perceived as an energy vortex, and Ayers Rock. But those are general public places where we know for certain people were drawn to. Now you have to take that concept about the energy vortex and normalize it to yourself individually. Which one?
There's one missing.
From this list?
Yeah.
Which one?
Taos.
Oh, Taos. You've always
Taos.
felt that way about Taos.
Well,
haven't
because
you?
of the hum, and well, Santa Fe has always been an attraction, has always drawn artists. An artist community has been in Santa Fe since what, the late 1800s?
Yeah,
early
since the late
1900s?
1800s, it really blossomed in the 1920s, and by the 1930s, it was a colony. I mean, that's how it was referred to, and artists were drawn to that area not only because the fact that they were interacting with other artists of their time, great artists of their time, and still do, but there was a certain amount of creative energy. It's the same thing you feel in New York. If you've ever spent any time in New York City working there in a creative endeavor, you find out that there's this amazing amount of creative energy in New York, and it just makes you a better artist or photographer or documentary maker in my case. So there are places like that, and they are not only generic to the population, but unique to you.
Well,
Do you have a special place like that?
I was
an
thinking
energy
about
place?
that, and I don't have an outdoorsy place. I just have like homes,
Yeah.
the home I grew up in, the home I lived in when I had my children, things like that. But an outdoor place, not really. I mean, I feel attracted to a place if it's beautiful and
Right.
serene, of course. But it's not like that's my special place because everybody's there.
Right.
There's thousands of people there.
And I think that's what you have to find. We're going to see the list here. Let's take a look at the list of what makes a place special. And so the first thing is that you have a unique personal connection to it. And what I mean by unique is you have a sense that you and this place are intimately connected, and it is not connected with anyone else. When we went up the one of those vales in Cimarron, I thought, wow, this is really unique, special place. And then we found Cairns. And you're going like, oh, well, it can't be that special if somebody else has been here.
Right.
So part of the definition of it being a special place is that it's unique to you. So somewhere along the line, Fenn found a place off the beaten trail, but not too far off the beaten trail, that he could tell himself, this is unique to me and this place. Nobody else knows about it. Nobody else has looked here. Now, we know that in the long history of time, that may not necessarily be true, but as far as he's concerned at that point in time, it's unique to him. You may find that this place is so important to you that you may want to share it with people you care about and who care about you, because a lot of times the place itself is a place of social connections. So when I was growing up, we used to have the Primos party, the cousins party, where all the Delgados got together, all the various Delgado factions got together, and we'd have this big party, and everybody would play guitar.
Just the Delgados.
Yeah,
Not the Espinosas.
well, no, the Espinosas were up in Abiquiu. That's
okay.
why. And every year we'd get together, but we had it on what is now known as Las Golondrinas, that historic place there, and that's where we had it. And to me, it was this wonderful gathering that I looked forward to every year as I was growing up, because I knew it was going to be a big picnic, and my uncles were going to play guitars and sing, traditional Spanish songs, New Mexican songs.
There was a place called Papago Park where our family used to do reunions. So,
Yeah. So that's one of the characteristics, making it social, if it isn't already making it that way. It is a place of natural peace, beauty, and serenity. That's how I feel about that location on the Rio Grande. There's a place that I took you up above Cowles on the Pecos.
Oh, and remember, I took you to Treasure Falls that one time because I was so impressed by it. So,
in Colorado, that's right.
Yeah.
So, and it did have a very unique sense to it.
And it was cool because it was one of the few waterfalls you could get to easily.
Yeah. Yeah. It was off the beaten trail, but it was accessible.
Very.
Yeah. We have that great picture that we took.
Yeah.
It's hanging in my guest bedroom. It's a place with history, and the history can be history in the written word. It could be anthropological, or it could be archaeological. It has those components. So that's why I'm always saying, if you're looking for a Fens special place, look for artifacts and look for petroglyphs and petroglyphs and pictographs. Because I'll bet you'll find them in Fens special place. And then the amenities of the place. So not only did it have to be beautiful, quiet, and serene, I think it had to be near water. Running water, so that you could hear the running water but not necessarily see it. I also think that one of the amenities was that it had to have his hiding place. It had to have a pre-made 1,000-year life hiding place, so that he didn't have to dig things up, and so that he could be assured it couldn't otherwise be dug up. So one of the amenities, aside from all the other things that he had to look for in this place, was that it had to meet his requirements for what he was trying to do, his goal for this treasure, which was a secret and special place. He says so. So there's some other quotes that I think are relative in the context of Fenn, and one of them is in the first few pages of The Thrill of the Chase. It might even be in the preface. And that quote has always struck me. I actually wrote a blog post on it way back in 2013. My church, the spiritual place for Fenn, is in the mountains and along the river bottoms where dreams and fantasies alike go to play. And this was an interesting sentence for a variety of reasons. Number one, I think it establishes his thinking on how he feels about the outdoors. But more importantly, it gives you this real sense of not only spirituality, but Fenn's sense of metaphysicalness, that there's something else besides the physical, beyond the physical. And he has a sense of that because he describes it where dreams and fantasies alike go to play. So I think one of the characteristics of this place that he describes as special could be in the mountains, along the river bottoms. I'm not telling any searchers anything new here, but what's important to me about this is where the dreams and fantasies alike go to play. And the reason is that I think those are places that you want to share. So,
sure. Just like Disneyland.
Exactly. Dreams and fantasies, baby. I went back to the book because I think a big component of Fenn's special place is the fact that there's a social component, something that you want to share with the people that you care about. And if you look at the book and you measure the number of times that Fenn mentions father and dad, it's 67 times in the book. So, again, if you've read the book, I'm not telling you anything new about how Fenn feels about his father. I think he has really, really strong feelings about his father. His mother, he feels for, but just by the number of mentions, Fenn's a man's man. So Skippy, 41 mentions, his father, 67 mentions, while June and mother have fewer mentions, the implication being that the women in his life had less influence on who Fenn was. His father and his older brother, which in the grand scheme of things is basically a substitute for your father, had much more influence and much more significance in Fenn's life. What do you think? You're giving me that. Are you making this up look?
No,
Oh.
I was thinking about your growing up, and you were the oldest in your family, and you lost your father. So then, were you a replacement?
I think I was, and I did a miserable job of it because I left, because I went off to college and then went off to the military.
Well, she sent you off to boarding school before
Yeah,
that.
well, that
so
was the other thing too. So yeah, I was sent off to an all-boys Catholic boarding school in my own town. So.
Maybe she didn't want you to be the father. She wanted to be both. Your mom.
Okay, well, we'll do the analysis. This is about Fenn, okay? We'll do that analysis.
Well, you wanted to know what I was thinking.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
what I was
all right.
thinking.
So, okay, all right, that's fair. I asked for it.
Yeah.
So, in The Thrill of the Chase, and I think this is one of those things that I've always wondered about Fenn, because I'm always analyzing him from a perspective.
Sue's here, so I'm going to walk out and get her.
Okay,
I'll be right back.
all right.
Sorry.
So we have a guest coming today, not for Gypsy's Kiss, but for Shelley's program, Wisdom Included, that she does. She does a weekly interview, and her guest for her interview has just showed up. So she's going to go get her. I'll keep talking here. So one of the one of the passages in The Thrill of the Chase is a chapter entitled Father on the Banco, in which Fenn describes a situation in which his father is visiting him. And this is during that period that we call wealth building between 78 and 88 before he sold his business. And somebody walks in and pays Fenn for a picture, a painting, and Fenn's, after the individual leaves, father says to him, "You just made more in 5 minutes than the whole value of my mortgage on the house your mother and I had in Temple, Texas." And then Fenn writes, "It was a melancholy recollection that suddenly made me feel totally inadequate." Now, here's a man who was a fighter pilot, who built his own multi-million-dollar business. But those words from his father made him feel inadequate. When he said he was proud of me, it didn't seem to help. He had a master's degree in education and had spent his adult life teaching children, and all I had was a knack for taking care of myself and his family. And he says, that still bothers me. Did you get a birthday present?
I did. That was from Sue.
Nice? How
Sue
nice.
stopped by.
Where did you put her?
She left. She would just drop by. Sue.
Oh, Sue Scott.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were talking about your interview today.
No, she's not here yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
We have a half an hour for her.
So he says
Thank
that's
you,
still.
Sue.
Are you going to share it with everybody?
Do you want me to?
Yeah. Well, let's do it now.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay.
What did Sue give you? This Sue Scott is one of our good friends. She and her husband Sean own Pig and Hippo Productions, and we do a lot of filmmaking work. Wow.
Wow.
Nice package.
It's a notepad and a pen.
With a custom pen?
So fancy. No, you can't have it. I know how you feel about notebooks and pens.
Notebooks and pens. Yeah. I feel like we're doing one of those
Letter S.
for putting stuff in.
I get it. Yeah, I can put rings and earrings and things in there.
Okay. Does it say Toby? Oh no, it says Sean. Never mind.
What's this? Whoops. This is what happens when you do a show live. And what's that?
Oh, it's a petroglyph. It's a carved petroglyph, but it's indeed a petroglyph. And a code.
Look at that. I can find we can do treasure hunts with that.
Cool. Look at her.
Neat.
Huh? Do you want to read the card?
Let's see.
So we'll get back to Fenn and
You said I should have.
No. You're right. I feel like we had to take Kyle Lazar's leads. Mike, we're just opening packages here for you.
Oh, they made a card for me.
Wow.
Shelley, it's not optional. You must have a happy birthday, and any excuse for us to celebrate together is a good occasion. Hugs and kisses, Sue and Sean. Oh, look. Balloon.
Nice. So we've known these guys
Pig and
for
Hippo.
5 years, 6 years.
Yeah,
They've worked with us for that long on film, documentary, and narrative film projects, as well as our work at public access television. We have lunch and or dinner with them a couple of times a month, and they're just happy people. They own Pig and Hippo Productions, so we're always working with them on our projects.
And their names start with S, just like mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sean and Sue Scott. So can we get back to...
Yes,
Good
let's
job.
do that.
No, this was cute. That's very nice of you. Okay, so back to Fenn's sense of himself in the context of his father's relationship with his father. And so he was struggling with that relationship because more than anything else, as most men know, you're always trying to please your father, even if he's an absent father. So let's go back to the timeline that I think is so important from 1978 to 1988. Because not only was it important from a wealth building perspective, there was a lot of things happening in Fenn's life. So in 1978, his brother Skippy dies at age 50, and 79, his mother dies and at age 71. In 1985, Sloan dies at age 80. Eric Sloan, his good friend, very good friend, dies at age 80. Oh, did I forget the E? I'm sorry. 1987, his father dies at age 84. Fenn acquires San Lazzaro. 1988, Fenn is in the midst of selling his gallery when he's when he's diagnosed with cancer. So these 10 years were an amazing 10 years because there's the positiveness of him building wealth for himself and his family, doing what he loves doing, selling art and artifacts, and then all of these things are happening simultaneously. So if I take that timeline in context, I drew me immediately back to the quote we heard so often from Fenn prior to this year. He changed it up this year. But he used to say, don't go where a 79 or 80-year-old man couldn't go. So here's a conclusion I think we could make. And that is, in 1982 and 1983, because a special place includes sharing it with the people that you care about and who care about you. So I'm going to make a little assumption here that his father was sitting in that banco sometime in 1982 or 1983. His father was either 79 or 80, and when he was 79 or 80, Fenn shared his special place with his father. Thus, as I go back, don't go where a 79 or 80-year-old man couldn't go. I think there's a second option in this. Sloan was in 1984 and 85, before he died in 1985, was 79 or 80. Perhaps Fenn could have shared this. He cared about Sloan. He loved him. And I think he could have shared this special place with him. Now, I think the special place didn't have the context of the treasure just yet, because I don't think the whole thing about the treasure didn't come until the acquisition of San Lazzaro, the sale of his business, and the diagnosis with cancer. But I think his special place had already been picked. So, with that in mind, I've taken this treasure chest and I'm going to go back to the Cafe Radio presentation, because he doesn't just say very special place. He says a very secret and very special place. Mm-hmm. And we know that literally in the paragraph after the end of the poem, in the thrill of the chase, Fenn says, 2 people can keep a secret if one of them is dead. By the time he decides to put the treasure in the ground, the 2 people who may know where the treasure chest is going to be placed, they may not know that the treasure chest, that even the concept, his father and Eric Sloan, they may not know that the treasure chest even is in the back of Fenn's head. But they have seen his special place. And by 1988, both of them have died. So Fenn is the only one now at this point that knows the secret. Based on all that, I've come to 2 conclusions. Number 1, in our opinion, Fenn shared a special place with his father sometime in 1982 or 1983, and Eric Sloan in 1984 and 1985. One or both of those events occurred. And the secret remained with Fenn after they both passed away by 1985. I'm sorry, by 1987 when his father passed away. Conclusion number 2 is if he shared it with his father when he was visiting here in 82, 83, or 83 and 84, and if he shared it with Sloan sometime in 84 or 85, he was in the mountains north of Santa Fe. He was in the mountains north of Santa Fe and south of the Colorado border. I'm back to, not that I've left much, Fenn's treasure is in New Mexico.
His special place.
His special place.
Is in New Mexico.
Is in New Mexico.
So it says Toby 2 times.
Toby 2 times. So, what are we going to do next week?
Next week, Fenn's 1,000-Year Treasure, Fenn's poem, Not So Much.
Yeah. So here's the deal with that. I believe that Fenn had a Fenn hid a treasure in a location that could be found in 1,000 years. But after us hiding our own treasures, I don't think the poem has the same life. I think the poem has a much shorter life, and that if the treasure is found in 1,000 years, it's not going to be somebody is looking for it based on the poem. It's going to be that somebody stumbles upon it, and that will be a byproduct of either population or the lack thereof, one way or the other. So, but I do want to say something before we start Q&A. I'm going to say this once, and I will not say it anyplace else. I'm going to share this with the people who are on this call or on this show today, on this program today, and I would prefer that you not share it with anyone else. And that is a piece of advice and a strong recommendation that if you're planning to be at Fens event on November 2nd, do yourself a favor, call Collected Works today and reserve your spot. End of conversation. I'm ready for Q&A.
Okay.
So where are we in time? So half hour? About 30 minutes worth of Q&A? If there's that much, or is there that much?
Okay, so I'm going to start here with Jeremy Milstead. How do you deduce south of the Colorado border?
Exactly what I said. South of the Colorado border with New Mexico is at the 109th parallel in terms of longitude. So south of 109 degrees longitude.
He wants to know, why are you saying it's not north of Colorado border?
Because Fenn has told us consistently until he discovered the rest of the Rocky Mountains in 2013 that he hid the treasure someplace north of Santa Fe, and I believe the north of Santa Fe did not go beyond the Colorado border.
And we're also using warm waters halt as the New Mexico fishing
definition
regulations, which ends at the Colorado border.
Right.
So, Taos. That's all he says. ES says Taos. Okay. Man in the barn. Man in the barn? Yes. I feel there are good arguments that The Thrill of the Chase, the memoir, is actually a narrative poem written in prose. Have you ever considered that the poem is actually The Thrill of the Chase, the book, memoir, by the same name? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
We have considered it and we discarded it. And the reason is I had a friend of mine who was a psychoanalyst read the book and tell me what they thought. And they thought that the book was indeed a memoir based on Fenn's state of mind when he wrote that memoir, and that the poem did contain the clues. And when he says that the poem has the clues and the book has a couple of hints that can be discovered in the aberrations around the edge. So we read them in two different ways. The book is the book, his memoir, and the poem is the poem, and it contains the clues.
Okay, E. Owen, will you ask Fenn in November if someone has gotten most or all of the clues?
It depends, because Shelley and I are going to both be busy streaming the event. And in the past, what I've been able to do is, before the event started, ask Fenn if he'd consider taking questions from the online viewers. I don't know if we'll get that opportunity, and I don't know if I'll have time. And we won't know until Thursday. On Thursday, we're going up to Collected Works to take a look at where they're going to situate us. We're going to set up some equipment. We're going to test out some things. So I won't know whether or not I can do that with Fenn. I can't promise you that I'll do it. I now have a list with yours of 22 questions that people want me to ask on November 2nd. So I'll do my best.
Jimmy Fast. What do you think of Wyoming? I've been to Wyoming. It's cool there.
Wyoming is a beautiful state. Wyoming is a beautiful state, and we've been there. We were in Lander, and we surveyed the Sinks Canyon area. So we think Wyoming is a beautiful state, but we don't think the treasure's there.
Right. Steve Rempel. Toby, do you believe this special place? And then I think he probably hit enter and didn't finish.
Oops,
so we'll
shucks.
wait for the rest of that comment in 60 seconds. Clowntown 247. Do you like the Toltec Gorge solve?
I considered it. I've been in the area, and the problem is it doesn't fit with a 79 or 80-year-old man solution. And if I remember correctly, that one of the only ways to get there is either by ATV or by taking the train and hiking down the gorge, none of which fits with the 79 or 80-year-old man and special place. We've looked at it, we've visited it, but once I got there, one of the things that you do as you go boots on the ground is you can say to yourself, this is not the place. It's just not. And so, although we've looked at it, we just didn't feel it fit the criteria for Fenn's 79 or 80-year-old trek multiple times.
Steve Rempel said,
Oh, is this
and
the
this
end
is the
of the question?
continuation of, do you believe his special place is a fishing hole?
Well, that's interesting. I believe there is a fishing hole, at least fishing, because it's funny. We don't in New Mexico. It is rare that you hear people refer to fishing rods as fishing poles or fishing places as fishing holes. I don't ever remember using that. I would say that there is a fishing hole, a fishing spot nearby. I don't think I don't imagine that that there is a fishing hole within 25 feet of where the treasure is hidden, but that there's the sound of water. You can hear the sound of water, and that it is very likely that if there's the sound of water, when I discover places when I'm fishing, it's because I move away from the water and just go look at something because it's curious. I have a sense that this is how it's happened.
Okay, let's see. Jazz Winters, one of my major solves was near the Rio Grande, but then Fenn states it's not near the Rio Grande. Why would he voluntarily say that? There are many rivers that could be dangerous. Why pick this one?
Well, I think he picked this one because two people had already died as a result of being on the Rio Grande. And again, if you're boots on the ground...
Did he say it was not near or not in the Rio Grande?
He said it was not in the Rio Grande, but he made another comment like, well, don't waste your time, He didn't quite say it, but there was some comment that you could interpret and say, and we made the comment. The comment we made is that it's not west of the east bank of the Rio Grande, and I think that's true. And one of the things about the Rio Grande is we've been up and down north of Santa Fe. It's very high desert as opposed to what you find in Cimarron Canyon, which is more like what Fenn describes when he talks about Yellowstone and special places, etc. Yeah, exactly.
What email address can we use to write in at Collected Works?
I would not write in. I promised I wasn't going to say this a second time.
Call?
I would call.
Okay. And you can find the phone number just online somewhere, probably Collected Works.
Collected Works. Just Google Collected Works in Santa Fe, and their website will pop up.
Let's see, Chuck Denny.
And don't tell them where you got that information.
Toby was talking about the person who recently found your mini treasure, the guy that re-hid it. He mentioned that he had a unique way of looking at the chase. What can you share? About Clayton? That was his name, right? Clayton?
Yeah.
Clayton? He had a unique way of looking at the chase? I don't remember that one. There was another guy in Texas we talked about. That had gone up to Devil's Slide.
You know what? We're talking about two different guys. Clayton was the one that found our mini treasure, the one that was in Salida, north of Salida, Colorado. We also had a conversation with another gentleman who called us after he had been up into the northern Wyoming, southern Montana area. And he had, I thought, was a unique perspective on the chase. And we were going to try and Skype with him. We just haven't put that together. Those are two different people. They're both from Texas, but they're two different people.
Back to Clowntown 247. When you start a boots on the ground search, do you envision yourself parking your car and hiking uphill or downhill, canyon down or paddle up?
So the parking the car put in below the home of Brown, in our opinion, it occurs after canyon down, right? So you're going down the canyon towards a place, and again, you can argue this all you want. This is our opinion. You park the car.
You put in below the home
You
of
put
Brown,
in below the
park
home of
car.
Brown, and now you start looking for the environmental clues. And There is no more guarantee that it's up a vale or down a vale. My guess is because of the water's high, the no paddle up the creek, we assume that we're going to go from that location up in altitude rather than down in altitude.
Let me
Special place questions.
just gonna let's see if I can find any more.
Did we miss some up front? I'm going to go back to the top.
You think? Let's see. Steve Klein says y'all would make great detectives.
Thank you.
Steve
Steve?
Gaghagen. Sorry if I said that wrong. Do you know if anybody has ever asked Forrest if his special place changed from his original site where he planned on dying with the treasure to where he eventually did hide the treasure?
I do recall someone asked him whether or not his special place had always remained the same. I don't know if it was asked exactly in the context that you provide, but I remember, and I'd have to paraphrase. I remember him saying the equivalent of the place had never changed, and to me that means that the place he discovered probably sometime in the 1980s didn't change between the 1980s and when he hid the treasure. And again, we have a different argument for when we think he hid the treasure, but we don't think it changed at all. What has changed recently is, and I don't know where I heard this, but I remember him recently, somebody asking, are you still planning to go throw yourself on the treasure? And his response was the response of a man of advanced age, and it's kind of the recognition that at his age, the likelihood of him being able to do that, getting away from family and going back to where the treasure is hidden and throwing himself there and allowing taking some pills like his father did. I don't think he has that in. I think he's going to have, I think when Forrest Fenn dies, he's going to be in his bed with his surrounded by his family, so, as opposed to up in the mountains someplace.
Sea monkey.
Sea monkey.
I'm looking for it.
Is that my fishing guy? Oh no, that's
sea monkey vacation. He's often said he'd like to go dying under a tree, but for permanency of the blaze, wouldn't this need to be in some type of rock alcove? Also commented already wet and that wind might affect it.
Yeah, I think you got to put all those things together. I think would he still want to do that, which I don't think he does. If I was going to hide a treasure, if I was Forrest Fenn, I was going to hide a treasure with the intent that one day I was going to put my body next to the treasure, then I would want it in a protected place. And if you go out in the forest, not a lot of trees, unless you're in the redwoods someplace in California, can provide that kind of a space where you can not only put a treasure chest, but you can put your curled up body. You need some sort of niche that's big enough to hold the treasure chest and yourself. The wet is arguable. That could be just a byproduct of temperature and dew point. And affected by the wind could be as simple as on a windy day, stuff is going to be blown into the niche in which he placed it. And that makes sense because I've looked in plenty of those niches and they always have a patina, if you will, of dust and leaves and other things that are just blown in by the wind. So let me answer that. So the answer is it could still be in a crevice in the rock and meet those criteria.
So I'm just going to read the ones that are specific about a special place so we don't run out of time for them. This is Clowntown 247 again. Do you think Fenn's special place is near a place of historic significance, Old American West or Native American, or just somewhere beautiful out in the wilderness?
The former rather than the latter. I believe that in order for it to be special to Fenn, there's some anthropological or archaeological or maybe even geological, but my predilection is towards archaeological or anthropological sense of location. And that's why we're always looking for petroglyphs and pictographs. So yes, I do believe there's some significance. You call it historic, and I think in the grander sense, that's probably accurate. We think of it as either anthropological or archaeological.
Fancy dance. There are some factual variances in some of the numbers Fenn states in the Thrill of the Chase, such as his friend Eric Sloane passing away several days sooner than he states in the book. Should we treat this like the rental car story?
Yes, you can treat every story of Fenn's in two ways. It's not a lie, but it's not the exact, accurate truth. It is a compilation of memories, and he puts them together, he assembles them into a credible story. And honestly, the next time you're telling your family one of your stories, see if you're doing the same thing yourself, that you're not embellishing it, you're not lying, you're combining stories so that it makes sense to your listener. So you have to disassemble, reverse engineer almost everything Fenn says to determine where each of the stories comes from where each of the stories comes.
So let's do Mr. G. So we haven't talked
Oh,
to
you
him
know
yet.
what? I forgot to put up our
Lower third.
lower third.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Mr. G wants to know, do you think the spot was already known by Fenn before he even moved to Santa Fe in 1972? If so, what time frame do you believe Fenn first discovered his spot?
No, I do not believe he was aware of it before 1972. I think he may have had. So as we go along in life, we all have special spots. And I think prior to 1972, he may not have spent enough time in New Mexico to explore it enough to find a special spot. I think you have to be out, in boots on the ground in order to have a sense. And I think a lot of times, if you're an explorer like Fenn is, you bump into your special spot. So I don't think he discovered it. I don't think he was aware of it before 1972. He may have had others, but I don't think the whole plan for hiding the treasure, et cetera, developed until the 1980s. And so, it wasn't Freud, it was Jung that called it synchronicity. That is, when a couple of disparate thoughts had been floating around in your head, and somebody says something that triggers the convergence of those thoughts. So I think what happened is the special thought and the special place and the treasure converged in a synchronous way, so that it came together probably around, the late 80s. I don't know, in my opinion, in our opinion, as I said, when he showed it to his father, I think he was trying to do something completely different with that. I think he was trying to bond the relationship with his father. I think he was trying to develop his relationship with Sloane. If he showed it to him, I don't think that became special. So the synchronicity was, I have a special place. Now it's a secret, and I have this treasure thing. So that was the three synchronous components that put it together. That would have happened in the late 80s.
I'm going to combine these two from Sea Monkification and Steve Rempel. Why did you rule out Special Place and his old coach, Concy? And is his special place possibly the spot where his family stashed their camping gear to or from Yellowstone?
Let me answer the first one. The second one first. No, I don't think it's there, because it's not in New Mexico. And that's the first thing. And then on the second one, again, I don't. So from our perspective, while there are hints in the book, most of them are of very little significance. I still insist that you could find the treasure with the poem and without the book. And that story is of great significance to him. He was describing a relationship that he had with someone who was special to him in his youth. And I don't think all this happened until Fenn was an adult.
Let's see.
And an adult, and practically a senior citizen.
Amy Camo, I think. and I can answer this one.
Okay.
Do you think that the
I'm gonna
release
drink
of Fenn's new book is an indication of the treasure being found? And I'm going to say no, because if the treasure had been found, Fenn will announce it immediately just to prevent anybody else from getting out there looking and getting hurt or getting killed after it's been found. There would be some liability involved with that.
That's right.
Let's see. Mr. G, did Fenn really hide the chest without his wife even knowing he was gone, implying the spot had to be within at most 150 to 200 miles from home?
Yes. Now, I will qualify that in that Fenn and his wife did travel out of New Mexico to both Colorado and Wyoming on regular occasions in that period after 2001. So you could make a case for that could have happened when they were in Cody, Wyoming. And he could have driven off in an afternoon, and she would have been spending time with the wives of the other members of the board. And while he went off and hid a treasure, and he would have been in a rental car, et cetera, et cetera. So that case would be made, but I'm not making it. Mine's still New Mexico.
Yes, and there's some discrepancy as to if she greeted him that evening that he'd hid the treasure and said, "Where have you been?" And I didn't even know you were gone. But I believe it's been said that this was months after he'd hidden the treasure, and he let her know it wasn't there anymore. And she was like, "I didn't even know you'd gone and hid it. I had no idea." So she wouldn't even know within several months' time.
That's right.
When it was done.
Yeah.
Just to protect her.
And I think that's what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He
Yeah.
didn't want her involved, not because he didn't want her involved, but because he didn't want her involved.
That way
Yeah.
she's not being harangued by
Exactly.
everybody as to her opinion of where it is and when he hid it.
Yeah.
Kept her out of it. So I think that's going to be, oh, wait, one more spot. Jazz Winter's location of the special spot on where he hid the chest. Do you think it's hidden in the river or land, in a cave, in rock's crevice, or out in the open, camouflaged, or hidden as something else, waterfall or tree?
Oh gosh. Okay.
That's a lot of things to look
Yeah.
at.
So let me tell you where we think it is. Number one, we believe it's in a niche in the face of a rock or in a formation of rocks large enough not only to hold the chest but to hold a body. That sounds very.
His body.
Yeah.
It's because he was going to throw himself on the chest.
We don't think it's in the water. We don't believe it's in the water. That just wouldn't be logical. What were the other things?
River, land, cave, rock crevice,
Land.
out in the open, camouflage.
Cave. I don't think cave more than a rock niche, because caves are messy places. They're not. It's very different from a rock, a niche in the rock. Give me some more.
Tying his special spot back to your sandwich theory of the poem, what is your opinion of the semicolon? Important or no?
No, but that's because I'm not a big fan of exaggerating the importance of punctuation in the poem.
We're not a grammar Nazi.
Yeah.
Clowntown. let's
Grammar
see.
nuts.
And that was Clayton Watson on
Oh,
that
Clayton.
question.
Hey, Clayton. Hi. We were talking about you before. We were trying to eliminate the confusion between all you Texans.
Clowntown 247. Do you think a longtime searcher will find the treasure or someone new to the search approaching it with fresh perspective and a new set of eyes?
I think that my experience is that the fresh perspective and the new set of eyes, based on the number of emails we get from people that say, "I've been looking for the treasure for 3 months and I found it. What can you go get it for me?" I don't think it'll be found by the fresh perspective and the new set of eyes, and the reason is, you could spend years analyzing not the poem but Fenn. And I think you have to do that. I think if you focus on the poem without understanding Fenn, just reading the poem, and I know because I did this. My first trip was to the Rio Chama area, and I took my son with me, and I made him cross the river to an island in the middle of the river because I knew the treasure was there. After reading the poem, I still have the book, Fenn's Thrill of the Chase, in which I made all my notes and didn't do anything else. Once I got there, I realized this is not a place where Fenn would have hidden the treasure, and I realized I've got to understand him more. So if your fresh eyes are the fresh eyes of a psychiatrist who has researched everything Fenn has written and said, and your conclusion of where the treasure is based on that, then yes, it's fresh eyes, but it is more likely going to be found by someone, like all treasures, honestly, by someone who has done the research required to find the exact location. Fenn's said more than once, the person that finds it will have gone there with confidence. Mm-hmm. That takes research. It's not a, whoops, look what I found.
Yeah. That's it for today. I think it's time to move on to our next project. So,
time to go?
Time to go.
Okay, so watch this. So there goes our lower third. Guys, let's say our goodbyes, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start our close.
Thank you so much for tuning in today and for your questions. If we didn't get to one of your questions today, go ahead and put them in the chat box anyway, and we'll try to get to them if we can, if they don't disappear. So we're still working on that.
Yeah, we need to figure it. We haven't figured that out yet.
So anyway, that's all I had to say. So for Gypsy's Kiss the Vlog, I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Eunice. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.